special edition of Guys, One Guy Not on the Radio podcast, and One Guy Back on the Radio podcast. Hey, it's Shap. JC's filming.
How's it going?
Yeah, we're actually at my digs, the new 95.3 Jack FM.
I like. Sorry, the mural's really nice.
I know the mural's nice. I believe at some point, I think there's already like some stuff placed. They're gonna have an awning over this and everything, so it'll be a little bit more welcoming. So
I think it's pretty darn welcoming as it is.
I know. I got Abraham Lincoln over there in the park. Saw him and I go hang out with Abe on my lunch break sometimes. So let's go inside and check it out. I asked everybody if they wanted to be on. Should I? No. She's like, no, don't put me on. We'll go this way. So let's walk through. We're going to walk through the sales. The sales. I probably should be on the. Should I walk backwards? Probably.
That's fine.
Okay. So this is the sales wing of the building. So we have the lovely Tammy over here.
Working hard.
Working hard. The lovely Jean over here.
Hello. We're always working hard around here.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now with Shap here.
Don't let him fool you. And then over this way, Sean's not here. I was going to introduce you to a new feature at the morning show, which starts May 30th. That's next Tuesday. And we're going to have some advice from... oh, wait, here he is right here. This is the APD, and he's a sports guy. He calls all sorts of games from Marquette and Ottawa over on 1430 WCMY. This is Sean Fry. Sean is going to be coming in every day at 7:20 with us to do Sean Says. Sean is going to give advice on the radio. Do you have any experience giving advice to people?
None whatsoever.
But you know a lot of stuff. You claim to
Everything.
Yes,
Everything.
he has a very know-it-all attitude. So I think he's going to be perfect for this. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that starts Tuesday at 7:20.
Just listen to me.
All right. So there we go.
It'll
So
work out, I promise.
so that's that. Thanks, Sean. We'll see you next week. Let's see. Let's like kind of do a little quick swing around here. I haven't talked to these guys yet, but I think they'll be all right. This is the news director, Rick Koshko, and he's an Esperanto whiz. He loves the language of Esperanto. So we won't ask anymore because otherwise we'll be here for about 40 minutes. So
I'll begin speaking.
no, not now.
Mi ek parolos la lingvon.
That's Rick Koshko. He'll be doing news with me.
Wait, hold on. Do you go to the conferences, the Esperanto conferences, where you come up with new words?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. And what's the latest addition to Esperanto? Have they changed?
Well, as far as new the neologisms, la novae vortoi, I really don't know because we just get online and speak, or we get in person and speak, and somebody uses a word that somebody doesn't know, and we kind of figure out what it means, and then we either like the word or we don't, and if we like it, it becomes part of the language, and if we don't, then it just gets forgotten.
Okay. So like Latin? No.
Well, except people say Latin is a dead language,
whereas Esperanto
is a living
yes.
language.
How much is it really living by though? Like how much of a thread? I mean,
I'd say it's like at least 3 or 4 threads twisted into a nice yarn.
All right, so it's still kicking a little bit.
Yeah,
So.
I mean it's certainly not a finished quilt.
Well, I'll be sure to say goodbye in Esperanto for everybody. So because I do know that because Rick has taught me a little. So when we leave the show, I'll be sure to do that. All right, in this episode. So
he learns the language.
Nice.
Yes, I know a little bit. So this is my desk here. So there you go. I actually have a desk, which is in radio terms. If you're on air, you'd never get a desk. It doesn't happen.
Wait,
so
hold on.
So yes. I inherited the Maria Kanellis picture. That is not signed to me, but I have interviewed her before, so I inherited that.
Nice.
So it's pretty sad that I have a much bigger picture of her than I do of my wife and my kid. So that's pretty bad. So I need to get some more cool stuff to put on my desk because I've got all this shelf space.
Wait, is Mr. T gonna make an appearance?
I don't know if Mr. T is. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
He might, but I wasn't sure if we were going to keep him for the podcast, so
Okay.
I wasn't sure. But I did see Mr. T on the Dancing with the Stars finale, and Tom Bergeron pulled out of his pocket a pocket T that played the sound effects of Mr. T. So I thought about having one of those just up here so I could like press the Mr. T at any time. And then I thought about getting like a Macho Man sized Mr. T because they have them. I've seen it.
I didn't know you had this.
Oh yeah. So that's this Cub fan's gonna give us a hard time though about that. But no, they also have the pop, whatever those are called, the A-Team van. So how about getting one of those with Mr. T, with a B.A. Baracus. So let's go to the studio. So this is home base for me, 95.3 Jack FM. And this studio is going to be remodeled soon. We have got several sponsors who are going to be coming in remodeling the studio and upgrading it, but unfortunately it's not going to happen until after the show launches. So apparently, at some point early in the show's gestation, I guess you could say, well, it's after gestation because it's already been born, but sometime early in the show's existence, the show will be live on the road at a few places. So be listening for that so you can come hang out early in the morning. You know, maybe there'll be places where you can get like coffee and donuts or something. I don't know. But yeah, so this is what we've got set up for now. I got the triple monitor set. We're all set, ready to go. I've been working on all sorts of different imaging and pieces and stuff like that for the show and some new bits and things like that. So, you know, we got Sean doing his...
Sean says,
thank you, his advice column. We're going to do trivia daily at about 8 a.m. So it's going to be called the 8 a.m. Brain Drain. So, and I've already got some prizes to give away for that, so that's pretty cool. We're going to make bold statements once a week as well. So I don't know about what, but we'll figure that out. I'll make a bold statement. So that should be really good come football season when I make bold statements about how bad the Bears will lose every Sunday. So that'll be fun. So, but we got all that and more. So it's a good time. So I hope you guys tune in. And maybe at some point we'll make it out to a party barge for the Fox meets the Illinois. Maybe. I don't know. So, you have any questions, JC?
can we ask people if they have a party barge?
I know. If you have a party barge you'd like to donate, that would be great.
Okay.
That'd be great. So you can even, and you know what? You'll be able to text the station. We've got a text line courtesy of Ivy Cellular you'll be able to do. We've got phone calls you'll be able to make. So I'll be active. You'll be able to message me on social media as well. So that all starts on Tuesday morning, 5:30 to 9, right here on 95.3 Jack FM. I hope you guys tune in and check it all out. And this is an abbreviated Guys Not on the Radio podcast, so we don't really have a whole ton of topics or anything prepared, but we do have some radio professionals in the building, so we thought maybe we would do a little Tales from Radioland.
Sure.
Should we do that?
Let's do it.
Should we try and walk around and see if I can find
Well,
somebody?
do you want to do that? Okay.
You good?
Yes.
You like the goofy angle?
It's good.
All right. You
It's
rolling?
like Batman.
It is. That's how we work.
You rolling?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so now it's time for Tales from Radioland. So where we have a different radio guest whenever we try to do a podcast. And since we're here in the studio, I've got my new boss here with me, Jay LeSure.
Hi there.
Jay has been, man, are you going on your fourth decade, or are you still in the midst of your third decade in radio?
Let's see. I am on year 45 and a half.
Jesus. 45 years. So that, I don't want to say anything else. I'll get in trouble.
Not necessarily here.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Well, you started off, because you grew up outside of St. Louis, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then you started off, you went from there, and then you came up here after college, right?
Well, I went to school at NIU and worked here on the weekends.
Oh, okay. So was this your first radio gig, professional?
No, I had a paid radio job when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
I had my FCC operator's license before I had a driver's license.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, as I say,
Yeah, I
JC,
was
you did the
15.
same thing. So
Yeah.
they don't issue license anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
I was gonna say,
No, all that studying about watts and
Yes.
ohms and
I couldn't tell you any of this
calculating
stuff.
power by the indirect method and the direct method.
Yeah.
And because it was essentially we had to take the element 1, 2, and 9, and element 1 and 2 was a ham license, and then element 9 was the broadcast endorsement.
The ham license, as in the ham radios that you see people.
Amateur
with
radio,
license
yeah.
plates, right?
Yeah, it was basically an amateur radio test, and then you had to do the commercial broadcast test.
He was doing stuff. We were at the health fair a couple weeks ago, and we had the Marty out there. And every time he would log the Marty on, he would give the frequency for the Marty. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, legally you're supposed to do that." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "I had no idea."
Yeah, it's technically it's a little radio station,
Yeah.
a little 40-watt portable transmitter.
That's
and
awesome.
It's just like a CB or a ham. You got to sign on, you got to sign off.
Breaker 19.
That's what we. That's right. I told Sean Fry the other day that Illinois State Police were going back to using bears in the air, and he looked at me kind of strangely.
Like you'd never heard that term
No,
before?
he'd never heard the term bear in the air. I said, I'm going to get out that old song Convoy.
Oh boy, there you go.
Breaker,
CW
Breaker
McCall.
19.
Yes. C.W. McCall. Some truck driving music.
So you started there, you went to college at NIU, you worked here.
Yes.
And then you left here for greener pastures for a little bit, right?
I left here to go to Morgantown, West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I went to St. Louis.
What'd you do at St. Louis?
I was a disc jockey on a country music station.
Oh, yeah, really?
WIL Country 92.
What year was that?
1981, 82, part of 83.
So that would have been, you would have been playing some Alabama, Feel So Right, Juice Newton, stuff like that?
You know what? The Urban Cowboy craze was on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Johnny Lee, Looking for Love.
Yeah.
Vern Gosdin was big. Met Reba McEntire. She
Oh,
was.
yeah?
They brought this.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the studio on the air, and it was the radio station probably dated back to the late 40s, I would imagine, just structurally the way it was. But we sat at a corner where there were observation windows to a hallway, to the lobby, and then to the control room where the engineers sat, because it was a union operation. So I just sat at the microphone.
Cool.
And did a lot of pointing and cut and wrap it up and all kinds of things. Anyway, for somebody who started when they were 15 years old, turning the knobs and playing with everything, to go into a job where all I was paid to do and allowed to do was talk, it was a little different. But anyway, this cute little redhead gal came along, and the program director was with her, and then they came into the studio, and she introduced herself, and she says, "Hi, I'm Reba." And she said, "I sure appreciate you playing my new record." It was a weekend in New England or something, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Something like
Country
that.
artists are very genuine and
You
nice.
know,
They really are. So.
And even today, now this was 36 years ago, 35
Sure.
years ago or whatever, but even still today, country radio and DJs are still really tight. It's kind of faded away when it comes to pop and rock music, but it's still a very intimate relationship between the artists and the disc jockeys.
Yeah, yeah.
To the point where the Country Music Association still names disc jockeys of the year.
Yeah, that's true,
For,
they
for
do.
different size markets
That's
all
true.
across the country,
Yeah.
and the Grammys dropped that a long time ago.
So when did you end up back in Ottawa?
Well, St. Louis, the radio station was being sold.
Yeah.
Which happens in radio.
So I had my experience in bid market radio, and it really wasn't that impressive. It wasn't any different than small town radio, to tell you the truth, except there were more people and the stations changed hands more often. And so I went back into smaller radio company operations and moved to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and helped in putting a beautiful music station on the air,
Nice.
which next to country is probably the most loyal radio audience I've ever dealt with.
Beautiful music.
I mean, this was in the early 80s, and so it was still, if anybody from Chicago might remember 94 Lake FM, it was that kind of music. FM 100 and dentist office stuff we used to call
Yeah.
it. But the listeners really latched onto that station. So put that on the air. Then I got involved in a small market company that was looking to expand, and so I had some opportunity for some investment. And so I bought into a local radio company, and we acquired a station in Pennsylvania that had a relationship with the company that owned the stations here in Ottawa at the time. And I knew some people who knew some people, and that, and so I got moved back to Ottawa in November of '85.
And you've been here
And
since.
my wife said, "We're gonna stay here for a while."
Can we stop moving? Can we
Yeah.
stop moving?
So we stayed.
Yeah.
So how long? Because you're the program director of both stations in the building. How long have you been PD here?
33 years.
Oh my gosh! So that took almost right away.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and you've seen a lot of things come and go, I'm sure.
Oh,
So-
sure. Yeah, we've gone the complete transition from records and tapes, And we've got the records hanging on the wall in one studio back there, and when we have the young kids come in with tours, they think those are the funniest CDs they've ever seen. The only record player in the building is in my office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's the only one, huh?
And I've still got a few tape cartridges I hold on to just out of sentimental
Nostalgia,
value.
yeah. I think I got a bag still
And,
somewhere with mine.
Yeah, I have a box of cards.
Yeah, and I think we have a cart machine in the back room somewhere.
So if I wanted to transition my cards
Sure.
to digital,
You could.
I could bring them
Yes,
here.
you could.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Now, I was telling him, I showed him a desk, and I said, this is unheard of. If usually you don't have a desk if you are a radio personality. At least my other jobs, I've never had a desk. It was, you use the studio and that's it. You just kind of matriculate from one studio to the next, whatever's open. So I was going through the desk when I first got it, and I was pulling things out of there, and there was still in the brown paper wrapping old packages of razor blades from when you used to have to
splice
yeah,
reels.
they used to splice the reel to reel.
Sure
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I can honestly say, and I aced that project in college, and I can honestly say I'm glad I never had to do too much more with it than that. So.
And I remember when I was in high school, I was 15, I had to record a client who came into the station. And so we'd always record the clients on reel. And then we'd edit the reel down and then go from there. And we had the client had come in, sat down in the studio, and so somebody else was going to produce the ad, I just had to record it. And he didn't get it in one take. So it took him a few times. I'm just like, go back and just start that sentence again. And I had him do it, and afterwards I'm like, I said to the girl who's going to produce it, I said, okay, it's fine, there's a few spots where you just got to splice it in. And she looked at me with this look of horror. Like, how dare you make this 5 times more difficult for me? Because what she would always do, and I guess what they did at the station there was, they never spliced. I would splice.
Yeah.
But they never spliced. They would just make the client
Keep doing
keep redoing
over
it
and over again.
till they got it in one
Oh,
take.
goodness.
So
I still remember the project we did in college. Mad Dog, John Madormo at North Central College for all those NCC Cardinals that are tuning in. But the project we had senior year, I think it was in college.
Yeah.
Where, you got a reel, and you had to then transfer from one reel to another, and it was this drunk broadcaster. It was this old footage of a guy with hiccups. He couldn't stop hiccuping, and you had to take all of his hiccups out, or as many as you could, and then you also had to then splice the Chipettes doing "Stand By Your Man."
Oh,
do
yeah.
a shorter version.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember that. So I aced the Chipettes part. I nailed that one. So, but I remember when we first moved out here, they still had the reel-to-reel over at the Studstills, and so I remember doing dubbing commercials from reel-to-reel still when we first moved out here. And then you wouldn't be editing anymore. There was no more
early
splicing.
2000, they were
You
still,
were-
because they
you
were
were still
just
well.
transitioning the digital, like the DTS machines or whatever they were called.
Yeah.
So still
There's
transition.
2 things that aren't in the studios. Of the 3, the razor blades was one thing you found, but always a grease pencil for,
yes.
for marking,
Yeah.
and then Band-Aids. Because
That's so true.
I had more cuts on my tips of my fingers from doing the blade thing, and you splice it, put it together, and then lay it in, and hope you got it right, because there was, unlike what we can do on the screen today, there was no going back and saying, oh, let's just try again.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier today. That's
That's
for
why
sure.
I always had a master copy and then a work copy of
Yes.
everything on the machines up there.
Yeah.
Well, see, I remember we do like concert ads and stuff. You would have like 3 people in the studio with you to do a concert ad, because you'd have all your different elements recorded on different carts. You'd have music on one reel. You'd have voices on another reel. And then I just remember like putting together these awesome, because we had a rock station in Sterling at the time, and we would put together these great like rock ads for like Ace Frehley and stuff coming to Clinton, Iowa. And so there would be like 3 of us in the studio, and then we'd have the cart we were recording the ad on, and then we'd go, okay, here we go, and then we'd start it, and then it was like,
Everybody
hit
had a
the
thing to
elevator.
hit?
Yes,
Yeah.
everybody had a thing to hit to get that ad.
It's like directing an
perfectly.
orchestra.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So it's crazy how, and I just look at in the, I guess, 20 plus years I've been around broadcasting, how far that we've evolved just in 20 years.
Sure.
Into everything being so digital and easy with a push of the button. You can make everything.
Yeah,
Imagine.
I started
So-
sitting in a horseshoe with turntables on either side.
Oh, yeah.
And, and tape decks and who knows what, and you had to run everything.
Yes.
Plus a big Western Union clock above the window on the wall.
Yeah.
To back time to meet.
Yep.
A hard time hit it on the hour.
Well,
and
and you
half
still
hours.
do that. I mean, you have some leeway now. I mean, there's some leeway between hitting the top now, right?
Yeah, I mean-
but I mean, you can always delay that a little
Yeah,
bit. But you usually do it live, right?
Yeah, and fortunately the screens will count down the time for you
Mm.
rather than having to look at the sweep hand and say, okay, there's 2 minutes and 40
New
seconds.
generation is
Yeah.
so lazy.
Well, and that's it. Like I remember being in here with you the other day, because we do a live spot with Jay, and just you still hitting the top of the hour,
still does.
the back timing, everything else, and like how we've gotten late. I don't want to say lazy, but in a way we've kind of gotten lazy.
Sure.
F9, that's
Because
the button all morning.
it's people set their days around your show.
Mhm.
They know like that when Jay does this element on his show.
I got to be out the door on
I
the way
gotta
to
be out
work.
the door.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, and I'm very sensitive to when we make programming changes.
Sure.
Because I learned, it's been 10, 15 years now, we moved AccuWeather, our interview with the forecaster every morning that we've got 3 or 4 minutes with him. I moved that 5 minutes.
You
5
heard
minutes.
about it, huh?
I moved it 5 minutes to where we do it now.
Yeah.
We did it 5 minutes earlier, and we did that for about a week, and I got a call from a lady, and she said, I'm so mad at you. And I said, what happened?
Yeah.
And she said, you moved your AccuWeather forecast person, meteorologist. I said, yeah, they're on 5 minutes later now than they used to be. She said, well, I couldn't understand why I kept getting to work late. Because she said, I know when I hear the AccuWeather, I need to be at exit 75 on
Yeah.
I-80.
These are true stories. This is real.
And-
this
and
stuff
she
happens a
said-
lot in radio.
She said, I finally figured
Yeah.
out you must do something different.
Oh boy.
She said, so where should I be? I said, well, you probably ought to be at Utica, maybe. So
That's great.
I'm very sensitive now about placement of programming elements, only because people do tell me that they schedule their morning by whatever we're doing, and when they hear us do a thing, they know they should be doing something.
So how excited are you for what's going to be going on across the hall? So
That's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's funny. We'll get guests to come in, usually for your show, for you and Karen, because right now the morning show isn't active yet on Jack, and they'll introduce me, somebody, the client sales rep or somebody will introduce me, and they'll say, hey, this is Shap. He's going to be doing mornings. And they're like, well, where's he going to be? Is he kicking Jay out? Where's Jay going to be? They just
No,
it's
a
like, no,
whole
there's
new creation.
two shows.
And that's
so,
that's half the fun.
yeah. Because it's been, almost a decade since you've had a morning show.
A
there,
live
right?
morning show on 95.3.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. It should be a lot of fun. So obviously, I know you listen and monitor radio stations a lot. But, if you had music on your phone, like from your personal library, what would be your...
Me?
Yeah, you. What would you choose to listen to?
It would be all over the road.
Yeah?
I like singers,
Mm-hmm.
Sinatra,
Okay.
Ella Fitzgerald.
Okay.
When they were actually recorded with the orchestra,
Mm-hmm.
and they usually stood behind like glass
Sure,
partitions so
sure.
they could still see the conductor, but the engineers needed the sound and everything. That music just sounds more natural to me than the records that are made today with karaoke. Michael Bublé, for example, doesn't sing with the orchestra. The track's all laid down, and he goes in and just lays the vocal.
Yeah. That's, I
And-
think, even rock bands and...
And even though he's
All that
smooth,
stuff.
there's just a little bit of a difference in there. You can just kind of tell. And then 70s rock, early 70s rock, from Zeppelin, Traffic, Cream going into the late 60s, the Motown stuff and the bubblegum pop of the 60s when I was 10 years old and fascinated with what I was hearing.
Sure.
Up to some of the new stuff is even creative to me. I don't understand rap or hip hop to a degree. It just doesn't have a lot of musicality in my mind.
Well, if we still had cassettes, which I don't even think there's any in this
No, we don't.
studio, I would make you a mixtape of some current hip hop. But
Well, hey, that's all right.
all I ever wanted was a roly roly.
Oh,
horrible
no.
song.
And CDs do not have the sound of vinyl.
Oh, they don't.
Give me vinyl with a good needle and a good amp, and I'll take that over a CD.
Well,
any day.
it's made a comeback.
It just has a richer sound. The low end is there. It's got depth. CDs almost sound too perfect. It's kind of like watching a movie that's been videotaped or digitally recorded as opposed to film.
On film, yeah.
Now they can make the digital look like film now. They've got that technology, but there is something about, particularly, the color movies of the 50s were just, everything was bright and today a lot of the colors are muted and almost too soft for me. I want something that
Well,
catches my eye.
Quentin Tarantino did that with his last movie, that The Hateful Eight. He filmed it on like I think it was Panavision or something like that, and he filmed it with an old, on an actual film, not digital. And then when they first put it out in theaters, because so many theaters now don't have anything to show these old style prints on anymore. So I mean, I worked in a movie theater. You did too, briefly, but I remember splicing the reels together, and you carry a movie like Saving Private Ryan at 3 hours. The thing would be so big, you would need like 3 people to carry this whole movie to put it down, because they wouldn't separate and just have different projectors show each reel. They would splice them all together. Now they don't do that anymore. Now it's all digital.
Right.
But I would assume for that Tarantino movie, and he doesn't make short movies.
No.
I'm sure they,
And
just a handful of theaters that had that.
And what's funny is like you talk about that and like how laborious it was just to, even just in radio or even putting together movies and stuff. But now it's like when you see something like at a digital movie theater where it's not put on the screen correctly, or if you hear something in radio where it's like they missed something, or they missed a cue or whatever, it's so frustrating because you know where we've come from, where we've evolved, how we've evolved. So it's like you guys barely have to lift a finger.
Yeah. And
Put some pride in your work.
You'll be driving in the car and you'll be like, dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air.
Yeah.
And then of course I'll be on the air and I'll probably have it happen to me. And then Jay will be on the glass window. You're off the air, Shap. You're off the air.
Yeah.
Computers run the world. So,
do.
They do, and so you don't even have to think anymore, really.
And when it decides to have an error, I was taught, when you do have something happen, do something even if it's wrong, just to keep things happening.
Yeah.
Well, the computer doesn't think like that. The computer just says, I haven't been told to do anything.
Yeah.
Therefore,
It's not going to do
I'm
anything.
not going to do anything.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Tales from Radioland. Jay, thanks for giving us your time from your day.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks for letting me come aboard the station. I'm looking forward to doing that. That starts on Tuesday, May 30th, 5:30 to 9. Shap in the Morning, back on the air on 95.3 Jack FM. You have anything else you want to add?
No, that's good.
I got to end it in, just for Rick, some Esperanto to end it. Do you try and run from the conversation when he starts talking Esperanto?
No, I try to actually figure out what the language is.
Okay.
It's got
It's
some
interesting.
things that make sense.
You know what I learned about Esperanto? Uncle John's bathroom reader. There's a whole section
Oh,
on it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not
That would
cute.
hold your attention for a while.
Yeah.
Ah,
At least 5 minutes.
so here's how you say have a good one, goodbye in Esperanto. Cisla Ravito.